Hi, everyone, and happy Tuesday. I am really excited to have Nicole here with me. And I was joking that she's sitting in the space that I was yesterday. I have an amazing little desk there in the sandbox at cSPACE. And what I wanted this conversation to be today, because you're going to be our special guest next week, Wednesday night on October 25th, for our planners pop in. And what I love about not just that Candy has a cool little desk there and we're using some of those meeting spaces and I love the community there, but as I've gotten to know you and gotten to know what it's like to be part of an arts community or a creative community there, it's always interesting to me how people are gathering together. And you have lived and breathed this for so many years as an artist and a musician. And now you're coming officially in a role at cSPACE that you are planning a lot of events and you're creating something that you'll be helping people to plan their own events as well. So welcome to this conversation today for starters. Do you want to tell us a little bit about you, your background, and what you're doing today with cSPACE as well?
For sure. So yeah, my name's Nicole Zylstra, and I do, like, as Lisa mentioned, like a bazillion things. My background is in theater and then in improvisation. I've been an improviser for 30 years and then a musician as well and a singer-songwriter. I'm a creative person. I've written plays that have been published and produced. I've done plays across fringe festivals. So I have and have done like site-specific theater. So I've done tons of events in like weird, unusual spaces. And I know that as artists in particular, for us, planning events is usually planning theater events, usually planning plays and performances. So, we have to be very creative about how we find space and use space and how we advertise and all that stuff. It's because we're perpetually low budget, no matter what we are what we're doing. So we have to be very creative about how we handle things, how we do things. So, but since 2019, I've worked here at cSPACE Projects, in events. I started off as well. Oh, I'm still events and communications, but my balance has changed. I started off primarily in events with a little titch of communications, and now I'm primarily communications with like a titch of events. And cSPACE itself, so I'm sitting here in cSPACE Marda Loop, which is the flagship project of cSPACE projects. So this is the first project developed by cSPACE. And cSPACE Projects itself is a social enterprise and a real estate developer that takes underused spaces and converts them into arts hubs. So we have cSPACE Marda Loop here, which was the former King Edward School, which was redeveloped into this amazing multi-purpose building that includes, as Lisa was mentioning, we've got our sandbox co-working space here, which primarily caters to entrepreneurs and creative entrepreneurs in particular. We also have venue rental. So we've got a beautiful theater that we rent out. And we also have hallway gallery spaces so people can put their art in our hallways, book our hallways for events. We, again, are trying to be very creative with how we use space here as well. And then finally, the old classrooms in the old school are now office space and studios for people in the creative and cultural sector.
Hmm. It really is a beautiful community. And I was filming something for a talk I was doing, and I was outside the building, this big school, so the flagship in Marda Loop. And I was saying, it's such a great metaphor for what we do here at Candy. There's a lot of stone and structure and, the formality of what a school is or could be. And the love I have for that space specifically is that it's the community that makes it what it is. And so we talk a lot about that in event planning, where you need the structure and you need the risk plan and you need to make sure the lights aren't falling from the ceiling and you need to make sure everybody's got a seat and all those important things. So there's a structure, but if there's no heartbeat in it, if there's no community in it, it kind of has lost its life. And so I love how you have utilized the space and that it's very naturally built for exhibit openings, for theater shows, for meetings, with teams. All of that can happen within that space. And
Mhm.
it's how we use the space, I think, that is really interesting. And the topic that we've got going on for the 25th, and why I asked you, and I'm so glad you said yes to present next week, but we're going to be talking about planning, and I was thinking about that, and maybe some people are looking at the schedule of these pop-ins over the fall, and they're like, well, I know how to plan, I'm a planner. But what I love about the perspective you're going to be bringing next week is that you're going to share with us something that cSPACE and the team is creating, that you're actually working on to support artists or people in creative communities, or doing these events themselves, how they can do this better, how they can find the right spaces, utilize those spaces, and plan. Do you want to share a little bit about what that is for you as a team to create that? And then what are you excited about that people are going to be using this event? I think it's an event toolkit for artists, or what's the name of it again?
It's the Arts Spaces Playbook. That's what
Playbook.
it's called,
Perfect.
Arts Spaces Playbook. And so just to frame it a little bit, the other thing I wanted to mention about cSPACE is that, when you say structure, when you talk about structure, yeah, this place was redeveloped in order to provide an inspiring home for artists and people in the cultural sector. So it's a LEED Gold certified building, so sustainability is really important to us. And also, everything we do is influenced by our 4C values. So creativity, collaboration, community, and change are the lens through which we look at everything. So when you talk about the community here, yes, like we want to encourage collaboration. We've seen some lovely collaborations between our tenants and our coworkers and everything like that. And yes, we're super excited about this Art Spaces Playbook, which has been a long time in the making. Essentially what happened was Calgary Arts Development, CADA, had something called Space Finder for a long time, which helped, again, the focus here is for artists and people in the creative sector, help them find spaces to do things, to do cool things in. And for whatever combination of reasons, that wasn't quite sufficient anymore. So this idea came up of creating an Arts Spaces Playbook. So it was initiated by CADA, and then we partnered with them, or they are partnering with us to make this a reality. And we've been working on it for about a year to create this resource-rich environment website where people can look for all kinds of resources. So when you're planning an event, and obviously everyone who's watching this and who's going to be there has planned events. And as you know, there's always things that you haven't thought of. There's always things that come up at the last minute, or questions, especially if you are looking at using different types of spaces, or you might have different types of events. So the Art Spaces Playbook not only tries to provide a comprehensive or semi-comprehensive list of spaces that might be available, places where if you have a space that you can advertise your space, there are resources to find that, but also resources to find where you might want to put your event, and also depending on what type of event you have going on. So if you have like a single one-time event, or if you have a recurring event, a long-term event, that might be a recurring event, or it might be a studio space or a short-term lease for a project that's only going to happen for a year. There are all kinds of different types of obvious events, and so they might require different types of approaches or resources. And also there's also if you want to plan a pop-up festival, right? Like there's a ton of things about land use and bylaws, all kinds of stuff that we don't necessarily think of when we're initially excited about an idea. Oh, I'm going to do this like really cool, like whatever pop-up puppet festival in downtown Calgary. Well, okay, well, how can you do that? Well, the Art Spaces Playbook is a place where people can come and kind of dig around and try to find and find those resources to get those conversations started. Well, if I am interested in doing a pop-up puppet festival in Olympic Plaza, like, where do I start? Who do I have to talk to? What do I have to consider? So it's, again, it's a resource that's primarily focused for people in the arts, culture, presenting different types of events. But I mean, it's a useful resource regardless. And yeah, we're excited. There's a need. More and more people are self-producing. More and more people are as Calgary gets bigger and more exciting, more and more people are wanting to do cool things.
Yeah.
So,
What I love about it too is that I talk a lot about connection points, that events are connection points over time, and that we need more and more connection points over time. And some people think, well, we don't have the resources, or we don't have the bandwidth, or we don't have the staff, but it's rethinking, what does a connection point mean? And what are we trying to accomplish? So it might be something very simple and fast and a one-time thing, and it might be something that's over the course of a year, or it might be another touch point that we want to make sure that we're connecting with a particular part of our audience or our clients or our customers over time. And that's what's really, I think, neat about this, is that it is a go-to resource that I think many of the people that we work with are working with teams, and they're trying to disseminate information too, or create a system for the people that they serve. And I think that it's the playbook that you've created. And I think this session is going to be awesome for anyone that is in that creative space. Even if you are a creative business owner running events, I think you're going to have a lot of fun here with this conversation. But there also is that sort of other level or other layer of this, that maybe it will inspire people to look at what their playbook is for their industry or for their business. And then how do we make it easier to create these connection points over time? Because it shouldn't be, one of my mantras is events should be affordable, repeatable, and scalable. And if you kind of put everything through that filter, it starts to help you make decisions around, how am I planning then? How am I making sure that I can do this even repeatable over and over again? But the foundation is there, like the land
mhm.
considerations or the cost or whatever it is, that you could scale over time, because you know what your investment or your cost might be as well. So I love that we'll have this chance to unpack this a bit next week. Thank you so much again for being willing to have this conversation and do, I don't know if this is the official unveiling next week, or if it's still yet to be unveiled. But yeah, I'm excited really for you to share whatever you can about what this playbook is going to become.
Wonderful. And I'll probably also mention next week that we also have a pilot program running right now that I can't announce publicly yet, but I
Ooh,
might tell you all about, which is exciting, which is also about like underused commercial space, creative use of underused commercial space in Calgary.
ooh, okay. Dun dun dun.
I know. That's the
You
cliffhanger.
have
That's the
me
cliffhanger.
intrigued. Okay, so for all of you out there that have not registered yet, you know that if you've been watching, you know that these pop-ins are free. This is my gift to all of you that are planning and promoting your own events. It's so important to me that we're gathering as a community, and it's been kind of fun. We've been doing this since August. It's like a reunion. Even if you don't know the people in the room, there is something about being in the room with planning peers, because you feel like you have that in common. So you can go to candyconsulting.ca/connection, and that's going to give you the calendar and the links to the next three. We're doing this until December, but I'm excited to be there with you on the 25th, and just to open the floor. You're going to be able to just share what you feel would be the most important for this group. But I'm excited to have you there. Thanks so much for this conversation. I've learned a lot, even on what the playbook is. So I'm excited about sharing that with everybody next week.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa. I'm really excited to talk to you and connect with everyone as well. Community is so important and peer support.
Agreed. All right, we'll see you next week.
That's right. Okay, have a great week.